Hello, my name is Sergio Troncoso, and thank you for coming again to listen to my reading of two excerpts from my new collection of essays, Crossing Borders Personal Essays. This essay collection came out in September of 2011, and it's 16 essays, everything from my growing up poor along the Mexican-American border near El Paso, Texas, in a neighborhood called Isleta, and how I made the leap from there to Harvard and Yale. Also my relationship to Judaism, essays on my grandmother, essays on my struggles as a writer, and even essays on how I encourage my kids to read and become book lovers just like I am. One of the most important essays I wrote is on my wife's battle against breast cancer, which is a three-part essay called Letter to My Young Sons. And I wrote this essay because when my wife was going through that severe health crisis, she told me about the women she would meet in her support group at Memorial Sloan Kettering, and how many men, how many spouses and husbands left their beloveds during this awful health crisis. And for me, this was shocking and cowardly and outrageous, really. And I wanted to write about a husband and a spouse who did not leave his wife and who supported her and was there many years after the health crisis was over. So that essay is included in this collection, and the first piece I'm going to read alludes to that crisis. It's a very short piece. It's called A Day Without Ideas. It's in fact the shortest essay in this collection. And A Day Without Ideas is really an essay about curiosity and imagination and what would happen to us if we began to lose that ability, that practice of being curious, and how the world might look to us if that were the case. So this is called A Day Without Ideas. I imagine that one morning I will wake up and have no ideas. One morning I will wake up and only see my wife slowly getting out of bed just a few seconds before me. I will only see a tired woman rushing to make my son's lunch. Maybe I will also see her take a shower before she answers the calls of my other son, the baby. The little one sometimes sings in his crib, and one morning maybe I will only hear the sounds that woke me up. I will not hear him. I will not laugh at his attempt at melody. I will not see the brave woman who gets up to take care of him. I will not see anything at all but a tired world, a materialistic world, a quiet world, a non-world. My eyes will function, but I will not see much. On this morning without ideas, I will take the 4-year-old to school. Maybe I won't even talk to him, although he loves to tell stories as much as I do. In fact, I know he is a much better storyteller than I am. But on this particular morning, I will not hear his stories about Captain Morgan, the fearsome pirate. Once on the uptown subway to school, you see, we saw a poster for Captain Morgan's spiced rum. Every day we began telling Captain Morgan stories. One adventure would lead to another. After finding the treasure of the lost island, the poor captain would be blown off course by a storm. Then every once in a while, Beelzebub, the evil octopus, would run off with Morgan's treasure. I never mentioned the spiced rum to my son, but on this morning without ideas, it will be as if I swigged the spiced rum instead of just admiring the picture of the pirate. I will be catatonic almost, and I will not listen to my child and his great stories. Loompa, the friendly chocolate-munching monster? I will not know about him either. On this day without ideas, I will probably not even call my wife just to hear her voice, even though I know she is busy at work. What would be the point of it? I know she took her tamoxifen. I know she feels okay. Her hair has grown back and is downy soft after the chemotherapy. Often when I call, there's really nothing important to say. We talk for a while, we talk about nice things, We tell each other we miss the other one, but it's rarely more than that. On this day I imagine, this day without ideas, I may not call at all unless I have something really important to say. I may even consider this call a waste of time. So on this day when it finally ends, after the children have taken their baths and they are falling asleep in their colorful room full of dinosaurs and lions and trains and puzzles and books, dozens and dozens of books, too many books, I will not sneak back in to hear them breathing. On this day they are simply breathing. That is one of the things children do best. They breathe. Especially at night while they sleep. So on this day, as it turns into a dark night, my children will breathe, and I will not be sitting in the darkness, hearing this wonderful sound like some nocturnal Buddha. It will simply be breathing, and I will not find it boring or exciting at all. It will simply be there, and I will not care. On this day without ideas. So that's that very short piece, A Day Without Ideas. And this next piece I'm going to read is called This Wicked Patch of Dust, which is actually a similar title to a novel that also came out of mine called From This Wicked Patch of Dust. And the reason I called this essay This Wicked Patch of Dust was because my mother from Isleta used to call Isleta Este Maldito Terregal, or This Wicked Patch of Dust. And I love the phrase so much I decided to use it in this essay. And then when I wrote the novel, I also liked the phrase and I put it in a conversation one of the characters had, and so I used that same phrase in the novel. So this essay, This Wicked Patch of Dust, is about a very intense argument I had with my father, an argument that took 3 years for both of us to get over before we started speaking to each other. And it's really an essay about how at a certain point I think any writer, any person really breaks away from where they began, and one of the most fundamental ways you break away is by breaking away from your parents and what they believe and really forming it into your own and becoming your own person. So it's not necessarily getting rid of what they taught you, but really taking it as your own, and I would hope making it better, or at least reflecting on who it is that you are and you were. So this is the aftermath of the fight, and I was trying to make sense of it and what it meant, and so this is from the essay This Wicked Patch of Dust. Upon reflection, I don't think what I did was completely wrong. I think my father bears as much responsibility for the argument as I do. For years, I think my father and I had a relationship that was mostly fake. He didn't understand my literary world of ideas, and I had long ago left Isleta, his orbit, and stopped working on the ceaseless renovation and upkeep of his apartments. I had long ago stopped listening politely to his views on Mexican politics and the Catholic Church, on Pedro Infante and the golden age of Mexican movie making. No more did I nod my head at his criticisms of the bizarre, somewhat corrupt American culture he had adopted in name only. I had ceased to live day to day around my parents' kitchen, where my mother still cooks and presents meals to my father, who sits on the same stool against the wall next to our formica table, pontificating about what is on his mind, urging my mother to sit down before her own food gets cold. I am not part of their lives anymore, yet strangely I remain close to my mother, who reads my books, who exercises with La Denise Austin, who keeps up with world events, who wants to know more about Aaron and Isaac and Laura. My mother, I have discovered, has become an interesting adult I can talk to and seek advice from. Still my mother, yet also a contributor to my thoughts and questions preoccupying my adult life. The only topic I can't talk to her about is her Catholicism, and what her point of view was when I was a child, faithful, redemptive, mysterious, while mine has shifted to open criticism, revolt, and pragmatism. She does know I am at best a lapsed Catholic, and I know she is a devout Catholic. We simply leave it at that. Despite our fundamental disagreement, our relationship still bends and sways like a verdant branch on a tree. My relationship with my father, however, even prior to our Christmas argument, had deteriorated over the years to an exchange of niceties, whereas I remember many recent heart-to-heart discussions and disagreements with my mother, I don't remember the last in-kind discussion with my father. These conversations, where you know your opponent well and they know you well, where the issues involved are what you face today, sear themselves into your consciousness. These discussions teach you about yourself, reveal a new avenue of thinking, or introduce you to a new way of life, not your own, but a life that gains a new validity in your mind. I am not sure why I kept having these conversations with my mother, but not with my father. My father seemed impatient when I analyzed the topic, or he repeated what he always said, rarely adjusting his position, perhaps tired of answering questions from me or anybody else. As an adult, I grew to dislike the pleasant face he donned like a mask whenever guests arrived in Isleta over Christmas. His fake smile, his grandiloquent gestures, as a perfect host, while my mother rushed to and from the kitchen with menudo or tamales for their friends and laughed easily with her guests, not trying to be anybody other than who she was. I don't think my father was always like that, yet I do remember how he became suddenly more religious after he retired, after they had traveled to Jerusalem and Egypt, after his body was shoved to the forefront of his consciousness. For years he had criticized the Catholic Church too, although never as severely as I did. But in retirement, my father returned to God. I know my mother had been thrilled with this development. Yet I remember thinking that fear was his motivation, not genuine faith. Was I too hard on him? Had he changed to become a person I couldn't understand anymore? Or had I just become more severe toward them, cognizant of my growing financial and geographic independence? Perhaps ready to exact retribution for years of real and imagined offenses. My mother had been as tough on me as my father when I had been a child, yet I never felt the need to pay her back 2- and 3-fold. Something about my father's gestures, what I perceived as his duplicity or disingenuousness, his dictatorial smugness, this residue of his self that had become bitterness on that velvety red couch, that something incited me to attack him. I blame only myself for what I said and what I did. Yet I responded to him and what he had become, to his tiredness as a human being, to his not being vibrant and thoughtful and open like my mother. Maybe even to his getting old and simply marking time. Perhaps I reacted in anger to the prospect of his death, to watching him give up on life, to witnessing his body give up on him. I do still love my father. When we return for another Christmas in El Paso in 1 month, I will try again to find out if he will forgive me, if we can really talk and perhaps create another memory that matters to both of us. I will try again if he is still there, if the hour is not too late. Yet I don't think people should die before they're dead. I don't think fathers should just sit on velvety red couches and stare at the television and daydream about what once was. I also don't think a son should kill a father before his time. I don't think sons or daughters should cram the disappointments and pain of the unsaid over years into one cold afternoon. I don't think sons should ever be so angry, nor fathers so bitter, about time and relationships and memories and a present that beckons only to the shapeless shadows of the past. I don't think these things, I don't believe them, yet here I stand on this God-forsaken ground. Thank you very much. That was from Crossing Borders Personal Essays. Thank you for listening to me for a few minutes. It is always my privilege to read to my readers and to get feedback from them. And so please write to me. My website is simply my name, sergiotroncoso.com or sergiotroncoso.com. I get a lot of email every day, and I do my best to respond personally to each person. And I'm always very thankful to all the readers I have across the country. I write for you. I know this might sound trite, but it's really true. I write to make a difference and to make people think, and these essays are another effort in doing that, in making people be more reflective than perhaps they otherwise would. Again, thank you for spending a few minutes with me, and I look forward to hearing from you.